Hi, and welcome to the End of the Line video podcast thing that the editors come together and do here at PMMI Media Group every week or so. Once in a while, we're out and about and we don't get to it. But this week we have a full house. We have one, two, three, four, five of us. As always, we have Liz Cuneo from Healthcare Packaging. Matt Reynolds from Packaging World, Derek Teal from Pro Food World, and joining us also is young Casey Flanagan, Pro Food World, but also pinch hits for a lot of the other publications as well. So since we have four guys, the proper thing to do would be to start off ladies first with Liz Cuneo. Liz, what's happening this week?
Thank you, Sean. I don't know if anyone else is feeling like the summer slowdown a little bit, right? News has been a
Yes.
little lighter, emails. So I'm not complaining. We only have so long of a summer, but one thing we did post about, and I've been talking to a few people out there in the industry, is Snap Slide. We've covered it in the past. It's a one-handed prescription bottle. So most prescription bottles, you need kind of two hands to push down, twist, hold the bottle, and such. So Snap Slide has a pretty cool one-handed design made for people with limited dexterity. So while the bottle itself is not really new, what is new is that there are a few pharmacies now who have officially are using them. So it's pretty neat to see. They've gotten really good user feedback from people. And these are small pharmacies, pretty local to the area in Pennsylvania, actually. So
Nice.
yeah, very cool.
Shout out PA.
Shout out PA.
He's got his birds shirt on, I can
Go
see.
Birds.
Go Birds. But people are really liking it. And not even people with, or people I should say, without dexterity issues as well. Nearly 90% of consumer prefer Snap Slide to conventional vial closures. And that's with people with dexterity limitations and people without. So kind of a cool thing to see. In the interview I did with one of the pharmacy owners, they kind of mentioned that there's been little innovation in the pharmacy bottle, if you think of it, in the last 50 years or so.
Yes.
Um, and maybe it's one of those things that it works, so why bother? But it's kind of interesting to see something new in that space.
Yeah,
Is
we've been following a lot of the sorry, Sean. We've been following
No, go
the
ahead.
inclusive packaging more widely,
Yeah.
and whether it's from the guidelines that the Arthritis Foundation and Target have put out, but the drumbeat that we hear over and over again is it's not just for those who are otherwise excluded. It's actually improving packaging design for everybody, and it becomes a single package design for everyone or universal design. You'll hear the folks at PTIS talk about
Mhm.
universal design as opposed to specific design for individuals with certain needs or disabilities. It's really interesting to hear that. Let's say those without disabilities are really liking the design as well, and it makes it life easier for them too.
Yeah, it's cool. And I have to say that it is still child proof.
That
So
was my question.
yeah, because it kind of sounds too easy, but they assured me it's not. It is still regulated for child proof, tamper evident. So definitely still has that safety in place, but is made to work with one hand.
Beautiful. Well, Matt, you stepped in and it looks gorgeous where you are at. So why don't you bring us up to speed on what you're working on?
I am in sometimes, or let's say infrequently sunny northern Wisconsin. And there are, it looks like skiers behind me. So I hope to be joining them in a few hours. Not quite yet, though. Um,
Nice.
yeah, I guess I'm keeping an eye on something that's been brewing for a long time, but it's finally somewhat coming to a head, and that is the NAW, which is the National Association of Wholesalers and Distributors, really. Basically, that connective tissue between the brand owner and the retailer that are moving products around and getting them, packaged products around and getting them to retailers in various states. Their litigation, actually, the trial is starting next week, Monday, or a few days from 3 days from now. Litigation to strike down or at least injure EPR in Oregon, and they're doing it specific to that case. They're doing it on like two fronts. One of them is that it's a due process argument where it should be a governmental organization that's voted on by the electorate rather than a private nonprofit like the Circular Action Alliance, which is composed of Kraft and P&G and a few others, PepsiCo, all seeking to keep power within the industry. And instead of having 50 different states doing 50 different things different ways, The NAW, who is deemed a producer, you wouldn't think that a distributor would be a producer, EPR, but they are because they have their own private label brands frequently. That's just a play that they've done. Think of Cisco, the food distributor, might have their own brand of ketchup
Hmm.
alongside Heinz, for instance. But then they also, because they're putting even cases and cartons and cases, secondary, tertiary packaging on a pallet and shipping it into a state like Oregon, they're packaging. That's packaging. So they're dinged for that. So one of the arguments is that these producers shouldn't be delegating what should be a governmental function to private organizations and potentially financially interested private organizations like the Crafts of the world. And then an even wider argument, the other kind of pillar that they're arguing is what's called dormant commerce clause or interstate commerce, in that it would put undue burden, and when they mean undue, it's basically weighing the benefit of building a better or more efficient localized MRF or recovery system infrastructure in Oregon versus the costs imparted on all sorts of brand owners outside of Oregon and having to import into that state because they're being, and this is for the distributors as well. So, anyways, I'm not a lawyer, and I probably got all of the language wrong. The extent of my lawyering is my wife's viewing of SVU, which is frequent. So I probably got some of the terminology wrong, but I know a lot of brand owners are keeping a close eye because this could be sort of the first chink in the armor on EPR, or it could be something that validates EPR and keeps the momentum going. So something to watch next week.
It's interesting that when all the EPR stuff started, I thought, and we might have talked about this offline, like I was expecting more of a legal pushback to it than there was. Just because there's always a legal pushback when money's involved, and then there's going to be money involved in having to do with EPR. I guess I'm surprised that it took this long for someone to kind of step up and do it.
Yeah, well, I think the issue there is that by design and early on, brand owners have sort of been on board with EPR. Sort of
Okay.
if you can't beat them, join them. And also I suspect, and this is my, just my suspicion is that they don't want the negative press associated with going to bat against recycling
Right.
because
Yeah.
a brand owner would not want that. And I think there's also some altruism, and they genuinely do want to have some sort of circular economy. So the idea is that instead of it becoming some sort of legal battle between the titans of industry and CPG and individual states, that the brand owners got on board early and often and to help shape something that industry could control. Hence, the CAA is a private nonprofit that has a board that's made up of PepsiCo, Procter and Gamble, Kraft, these sorts of companies. So they're able to kind of control their own destiny there, which is why somebody else who's deemed a producer, NAW, might have the impression or feeling that they don't have a seat at the table, even though they're deemed a producer and have to pay and actually have smaller margins than already small margin industry like CPG. So I think that's why we didn't see that happen. And I think that's why we see, I guess, not the brand owners themselves, but tertiary organizations and the
Right.
connective tissue being the sort of the immune response in the body against EPR, what they would call a tax. So again, I have no dog in the fight. I'm just laying out what I'm seeing and looking forward to the outcome next week, or the outcome kind of stemming from next week.
Hmm.
Very cool. Very fascinating stuff. Um, Now I got to choose between two pro food world people. I don't know who I go
I
with
I want to
first.
hear about humanoid robots. That's why I busted out the Transformers earlier. I got to hear
Yep.
about humanoid robots. All right, Gary, gotta get yeah, we gotta get some
All right.
Skywarp in there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think
So
that's
Derek
fitting.
wants all Casey all the time.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, no, that is a perfect example of the sci-fi come to life that this kind of
Hmm.
stuff is. So I think that's a good segue into this. So I have some interesting updates and insights that I learned in the humanoid robot space from going to Automate and going to specifically the humanoid robot forum that they hosted there. They had an expo too, so it was quite the event surrounding these humanoid robot expo. Really tackling this from all angles. And I think one interesting theme that kept coming up in the forum was safety around these, because that is both kind of major barrier to humanoid robots for industry, and also like the thing to solve if you do want to get these into a factory. And so one part of that that was really interesting was safety for something that can move around like a humanoid robot can. You
Hmm.
can really focus on a single area and a single task and making it as safe as possible for like a normal traditional industrial robot. But the whole idea of a humanoid robot is that it's moving from station to station, from task to task. And so there was a really interesting development in that space. NVIDIA announced right at the same time as Automate an announcement along with Agility Robotics, which does the digit humanoid robot. And it is NVIDIA's Halos for Robotics system. So that is the industry's only full stack open robotics safety system. And basically, what they're doing is they're taking NVIDIA's Halos safety system that is, as I understand it, originally for autonomous vehicle safety, and they're just applying that over to robots. And the great thing about that is that it is on board on the humanoid robot. And so rather than focusing on single silos of task stations, the safety decision making is moving with the robot. It's right on board, and it's
Wow.
as it walks across the factory, it's deciding what's the safest thing to do next. And so Agility is the first company to incorporate elements of that Halo system into its safety system for its own robot. And so I think it's really interesting to see like how they're tackling this. If a robot is has to move around, what do you do to make it continuously safe for every step that it takes? And I guess continuing on that with steps, another major theme in safety was the legs versus wheels question. They talked a lot about that. The it's right now legs are kind of far off, to be honest. It comes down to the safety standards of it. But the thing is, at least in the early adopters, not every humanoid robot will need legs right away. Like wheels might just be the easier thing to start with because there are safety standards around it already in terms of AMRs and things like that. They're efficient as you need them to be on a flat surface, and it's just a more familiar thing to start with. So, I remember one of the speakers from Apptronic was explaining that that's probably going to be the first thing the companies kind of gravitate toward as they start to think about humanoid robots. The wheels do bring advantages when it comes to things like the obvious stuff is stairs and gravel if it's not a perfect flat surface. But then also he mentioned that there's the full body mobility aspect of having legs, and he kind of used himself as an example, which is kind of funny to see. He was saying, "Hey, I can bend down and pick something up off the ground. I can bend down onto one knee and grab something, and that doesn't. I'm not totally expanding my square footage of myself as I'm doing that. Like it's in a small little footprint as I'm grabbing stuff off the ground and doing more of those dynamic movements. So it's an interesting innovation and something that maybe it is in the future, but it really is going to need those standards before it's a safe way to go. Because I mean, with a bipedal humanoid robot, that is like 100 to 200 pounds of metal that could potentially fall over. So it's going to take a lot of time before that is, and a lot of data and a lot of ironing out those standards before that's a safe thing to put into a factory. And I
Yeah.
kind of saw that on the expo floor too. I mostly saw on the expo floor wheeled robots, which are like it was mostly that for what was going on in terms of how they were presenting these. There were some bipedal ones, but they were either being guided directly by a person who was kind of walking it. If it was like a full size bipedal situation, it had someone like kind of holding a handle on the back of it and walking it around, or it was inside a big cage for the demo. So even on the expo floor, you could kind of see that the full size bipedal thing is not something anyone wants right next to a human quite yet.
It's
So
it's
Yeah.
strange that we're getting in Waymos that again this is the maybe it's the wheels versus legs question, but we're getting in you're talking about a 1 to 200 300 pound robot. We're getting into a Waymo that's a 1 to 2,000 pound car, and it's shooting us 60 miles an hour down the road. We're okay with that. So it seems like a misalignment or I just it feels like an incongruity between what we're willing to accept risk wise
Hmm.
there versus what companies are willing to accept as far as risk that they would be liable for. So interesting that the some of the advancements from NVIDIA that are based on the autonomous driving cars, it sounds like.
Yeah, kind of in a similar space. And that is a good point. That what you mentioned of like we're already placing similar technology into the public right now. I do remember a session where they mentioned that industry is going to be a kind of the first frontier of this stuff before this goes into, of course, like a humanoid robot helping you out in your home and all those kind of Jetsons level futuristic things. And that is part of the thinking behind that is that industry and in factories, they're already used to working with heavy machinery and these big pieces of equipment that have some risk associated with them. So there's the workers have that knowledge of like how to kind of interact with that and not make it dangerous. That doesn't mean that that you need to just throw these humanoid robots in there right now. And it seems like a lot of these companies are hesitant to do so at this moment. But it's interesting that that is the first frontier that they're going for. So
Very interesting.
Excuse me. Is that enough humanoid robots for you, Derek? Did you
Uh,
get the gist
yeah.
of what's
Oh, no,
happening?
this now we're gonna get to enough. No, I know how hard it is to get one of these guys to stand up straight. So I can't imagine a 200 pounds of metal, walking around next to me.
Is that gyroscopics? Is that gyroscopes? Is that what is keeping them upright? Is that right, Casey? Is it?
good question. I don't know for sure. I think it's yeah. I can't speak for certain on like what is keeping it upright for step to step and how it's. I know there was a lot of vision systems involved in the hand situation and how they were grabbing items. But yeah, that is a good question on exactly how they're getting them to react to the real world in fast enough to like balance themselves.
Yeah, they're cool to see. And I like Derek, I'm interested in why your, I don't want to say toys, that's the wrong word, but
They're
there's,
they're toys. They're not collectibles. They're toys.
I don't want to insult anyone, but they seem to be very accessible to you in the last couple of meetings I've had with you.
Yeah. This guy, this OG right here, man. He's probably older than Casey. I know he's old, probably older than you too, Liz.
Is that Optimus
Um,
Prime?
no, that's Jetfire right there.
Okay.
Mm.
Wow.
Some people call him Skyfire in the cartoon. But anyway, no, they're accessible to me just because, I don't know. So my boys each have one of the, okay, not to get too in depth, but there are three of these guys. There's
Hmm.
Skywarp, Starscream, and Thundercracker. And so I've got Skywarp. My oldest has Starscream. My youngest has Thundercracker. We keep them on our desks all the time, just as a reminder of, you
Each
know,
other.
each other. Thank you.
Love that.
Nice. Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
great.
that's why he's always there. But he needed someone to fight, so that's why I got Jetfire out.
Okay,
It's
perfect.
yeah, and it's great for humanoid robot discussions. You always got to bring that up. So it's
Exactly. Oh yeah,
yeah,
totally.
good for yeah, show an example. So
In plastic, but.
yeah.
But yeah, so something I was sort of disappointed that we didn't get to talk last week because on the Thursday, right before we usually record these, I got a pretty interesting news item that came across my desk from Mars Pet Care. And we've talked in the past about, knowing who your vendor is and, making sure you vet those, especially when it's incoming. Mars Pet Care apparently has had the opposite problem where with some of their pedigree dog food, their canned dog food, they noticed through their own food safety protocols that hey, there's foreign contaminants in here. Um, let's get rid of these. Destroy these items. And they send it to a third party, and yet somehow they got from the third party onto the store shelves.
Oh no.
So
Hmm.
there's some food fraud going on there, and I just, it doesn't really have to do with manufacturing exactly, but it's just another example of how you really have to be careful. I mean, I'm not going to put the onus or say that the third party was at fault, but somehow, and they're still trying to figure it out how these particular lots of food got from we're destroying these
Yeah.
to the store shelves, and I just wow, that just amazed me. And reading the press release that they sent out, you know. It didn't have any particularly like strong language, but as I'm reading it, I was just like, I'm sorry. I didn't have anything to do with it, but it's like when one of your pets like gets out of line and you're like, "Hey, don't do that," and the other one's the one that cowers. That's how I felt like reading this. I'm the other dog, just like, "Oh, geez, I'm sorry, didn't mean to do it." Like it was just really, I don't know. I don't think I've ever gotten a press release quite like that
Hmm.
before. Again, it
Imagine
wasn't
Yikes.
anything.
by putting this back into circulation, though. Imagine how much food waste was prevented.
That's
Right?
one way of looking at it.
I guess so. No, it doesn't matter if any animals were killed by it, but hey, we prevented food
Well,
waste. But yeah,
we
they
don't.
haven't had any animals get sick by it. It was only a couple of lots, but
Huh.
uh yeah, it was just one of those things that wow, you worry about coming in and they caught it too.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
The system
so
works.
its system works except for, somehow some unscrupulous person or somebody made a mistake and ended up on some store shelves. But wow.
I
That's
wonder how much
wild.
we attribute to unscrupulous people when it's really just human error, which is
I was
replete.
thinking that.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's why
Like
I
there
had
was
to
no
add,
intent.
mistake.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
Right.
it's
Interesting.
Well,
interesting.
I think we've said it all. We've covered a bunch. It, we don't want to keep people too long, and
I got
yeah.
toys
So
to
with
play with.
Matt, Derek has toys to play with.
I've got fishing
It's
to do.
Matt's got fishing to do. Liz has houses to look at. Casey, I don't know what you and I are up to, but we'll find something to do. So with
Yeah.
that in mind, thank you everyone for taking time out of your day to hop on here and listen to End of the Line, and be sure to check us out next week.
Totally. Bye.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.